Okay.
So we're going to talk today about the top 10 wellness myths busted. So let's go with number one, our
Busted.
first
I
myth.
like it.
We're going to bust some myths
We're
today.
gonna
Does that sound
bust
like fun
myths.
to you?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
So, Tim, wellness equals gym discounts. Myth or fact?
Wellness equals gym discounts. Myth. Aren't these all myths we're busting?
I
So
think they're all
I
myths
feel
that
like
we're
there's not
busting,
much
but maybe
twist
take a
left to
provocative
it.
approach. Can you say fact on it? You have to be fact guy, and I'll be myth guy, and they're going to get worse and worse, and you have to like defend your stance. That could be the controversial hot take we need right now.
Okay. So I'm going fact here.
Good.
Wellness equals gym discounts.
Yeah.
Fact.
Fact. Good. All right. That was it. That's the answer. Fact is the answer, and then we're moving on.
Do you want me to support this? I don't even.
All right.
So
Go with the myth then. Go with the myth. Why is it not? Why is that not fact?
it's not fact because a couple reasons. Number one is it's proven when people invest a little time, effort, energy, or even money into their health, sometimes there's a little bit more skin in the game to actually stick to it. I'm not saying that you have to pay more money for a gym membership in order to exercise, but what I am saying is it's certainly not directly linked to a discount. If you look at the commercial fitness centers that are lower cost, they're built on a model that is banking on a very high percentage of their members not showing up every day. If 30,000 people ascended on a Planet Fitness on a Tuesday at 6 p.m., you wouldn't be able to fit them. So it's proven that it's a myth that the lower cost does not equal health or wellness.
Okay. Nothing to add on that. Let's
Yes.
go to new myth.
Okay.
If people cared about their health,
Okay.
they would actually use the benefit. Myth or fact? Well, actually, this is all myth. So let's just say it is a myth. But let me take the controversial hot take on it
Okay.
is that as a person, you probably are using a lot of things out there. You probably are spending money on weight loss things. And when your employer offers a benefit to you and it's weight loss coaching or it's access to gym memberships or something, then you probably should use it then. I don't know. I just think the HR director is saying, well, this makes complete sense because, Betty needs to lose weight and them offer this benefit of whatever it is for the organization to help her lose weight, but then Betty won't use it. It's just kind of frustrating, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I would only add to that we all are different, yet in some ways we're all the same. And how we're all the same is I think everybody has that one or two or three things that they'd love to change and either have difficulty doing it or need a little help or assistance. And you might have we're talking a lot about now fitness or weight loss or
Mhm.
nutrition, which comes up, usually to the forefront of things in wellness, but everybody has from sleep to stress to not binging too many shows at night and staying up late. I mean, there's all these little things that just affect our health. And, on any given day, we have something we want to work on.
Any shows you're binging right now, Tim? What's the show you're binging?
Oh yeah, Undercover Billionaire. Have you seen that?
I remember way back, but I haven't seen it. I think it was Undercover Millionaire. That's but if the people making that much money now, they're the undercover billionaires now.
Yeah. And next year they're coming out with Undercover Trillionaire. And we don't even know that there is a trillionaire, but they're undercover right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, so they give this guy $100 and a beat up truck, and he goes to, I think, Erie, Pennsylvania, and his goal is to create $1 million business in 90 days
Wow.
by a private evaluator. And it's pretty cool to see. And he has to find shelter, he has to find food, get a business going, get connections, all the things. And his premise is anyone can do it. You just have to get after it, and it's pretty cool to watch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Another myth we should discuss is well, what generation? What we have? We're going to talk about millennials and Gen Zs, and the hot take is they don't want to talk to people; they only want digital. So I think I'm actually still in the millennial range, which I could speak for the millennials. I'm not. Are you? I think you just aged out of that millennial, right?
I think you're on the cusp. It's one of those
I'm a cusp guy.
like where people don't know where Central Jersey is. I think you're like
What
that's
exit on the Parkway are you? That's the question. If you live in New Jersey,
exactly
if you don't know that answer, you're not really from New Jersey.
that's a fact. 98 was where I grew up, by the way.
Oh, that's like Pennsylvania. That's Central Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
137 is like that's northern New Jersey. When you get above that, you're in New York. Like
Yeah,
stop it.
I
Once you
never realized how much at risk I was of being an Eagles fan, which that would have
well, you
really.
do like hoagies though, so you're
I
not
do
a
like
sub
hope.
guy.
That's a
And pork
fact.
roll. I heard you mention that once or twice before.
Yes, pork roll
Anyone
or
that's not from New
Taylor
Jersey
ham.
is basically like, I don't know, what are these guys talking about?
Exactly. They're calling their Taylor ham pork roll. These guys.
Exactly.
What was the question? I don't even remember. Which
He's
one?
just so like mouth is salivating. Think about pork roll and Taylor ham right now, by the way. I am as well. Like I haven't had one of those in so long. Just
Oh,
straight up wake up with meat sweats tomorrow. It'd be
thanks
amazing.
for that's great.
Talk about Gen Z and millennials. It's digital only. Don't let me talk to anyone. Like I'm good on just give me an app or something else or my new goggles. I'm going to wear my eyewear.
Yeah, I see it. I see it where people don't want to interact. I wouldn't say I support it. I think that even we're fathers and seeing your kids. If you had to choose between them playing a video game and outside playing, with other friends, I can tell you where my money would be on for them to have more of a socially interactive life. I'd like to see them outside interacting. I just think we interact differently, and in some ways, it's become we don't want to talk to another human being, but in reality, we just talk to other human beings differently now.
Mhm.
We text. We did you have a pager when you grew up?
Of
Was
course I
that
did.
were
And you
you
flipped it upside down. I said hello to you. I'm like, how you like that, guys?
exactly right? So we just interact differently,
The right
but I
mediums, different mediums. Yeah.
different mediums. But I do think, we work with a lot of diverse populations, and there's definitely a need and a want for social connection. I think it's
Mhm.
just creating those outlets and also understanding technology, not just saying it doesn't have to be everything completely social, interactive, human to human, or just tech. It's a blend, and I think we're all just kind of figuring that out.
Now, I wonder because we're talking about, the kids. So, of course, I think at some point would we love for our child to be the starting quarterback or the great pitcher or a golfer or something like that. Likely that is that basically at 0%, or maybe like 1%.
Yeah,
We come from good genes, so possibly
we do.
1%. But
Point
I think of
point.
like now I'm seeing all of the attention on basically esports.
Mhm.
And when you think of like, I don't want my son or daughter playing video games, but that's definitely more of like what the trend is now of like how people are socializing through digital connections. And maybe the quote unquote cool kid in school in 10 years isn't going to be the star quarterback. It may be the top e gamer in that building, which might be an interesting way to think about it. So I'm always trying to like balance between the same like you. I want my kids outside. I want them reading books. I want them doing things, but also too, like I want them to understand how to use an iPad and I want them to understand the digital technologies and to play with those toys so they get comfortable on there as well. And I think that's kind of like what we're seeing with the workforce. It's as your workforce ages out or gets younger or flips over, you need to modify your approaches to address the most contemporary way that that audience wants to be interacted with, whether it be digital tools, whether it be AI coming soon, whether it be talking to a real person. But it comes down to where are they in their own personal journey? What tools do they have and what skills did they learn when they were a kid? Were they digital first? I remember getting like my first computer that we all shared in the house, and that sounds old. And you think of our parents probably talk about their first TV, and their parents talk about their first radio. It's like we're the
Yep.
old people now. Like so, we
Yep.
have to address how we're going to get information to the people and what types of people need what information.
Was your first computer an IBM with the noise when it was
I
logging?
mean, of course, the noise because we were doing the AOL, and it was like, well, this is you got the little CD in the mail, and you were like, this is going into my chat room, and it was just like
Yep.
slowly loading up. I'm like, this is incredible.
Right now, real millennials are saying this guy is not one of us.
I just
You,
just make the age, baby.
you just made it.
1980, 80
Yeah.
baby. Take
Yeah.
that, take that to the bank. Let's write a fresh comment about that.
I'm okay though. I like it. It's a badge of honor for me to be able to complain about millennials.
Yeah. All
I
right.
can't.
Another myth I want to talk about, and I'll take the take on this first. wellness is too expensive for small businesses. So the notion is out there is you can't have a wellness program. You can't help your employees live healthier, happier lives because it costs so much money. First of all, I would challenge you. I'd say, where are you? What are your most important assets in the business? It's your people. So there's nothing that is more valuable. So inevitably, you define too expensive as you're not getting a return for you make an investment into whatever that is. So I would say challenge the notion that you're looking at your employees and your team differently than you should be. But also, you could do 100 things that are free that will help create a culture of wellness and health and excitement about your business that your employees will rally around and be proud to work for a company like you or like yours and be excited to take advantage of the support mechanisms you put in place or the resources you put in place for your team. You don't need to go and buy some big bloated software out there to have a wellness solution for your team. You just need to be thoughtful as to what your team needs and create a culture in which you have those conversations and you give resources and or time to your team to pursue passions that matter to them.
That's really good. Did you prepare that before, or because I'm completely unprepared? If you're expecting me
Amazing.
to match your answers right now, that was really good. Yeah.
I'm working on soon to be done the free wellness strategy. So basically a $0 corporate wellness program. So that's a big piece of content I'm working on. So it's fresh in my mind right now of all the things, and I don't want to spoil it. So I have a bunch of things, a bunch of great tips I'll be doing coming up soon, another month or so.
Yeah, I support what you said. Being that we sell a platform that is around wellness to small businesses, we don't want to negotiate against ourselves, but we will. There are things you can do that are not our platform,
Yeah.
and I would just encourage everyone to have a wellness strategy that may or may not include a budget. And as long as you have that, I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive.
All right. Myth time. One size fits all programs work just fine. I need to stop. Tim, take this one, please. Take it and bash it out of the park.
I don't even want to answer that one. That one's terrible. One size fits all doesn't work. I mean, there's an assumption there that everyone has the same preferences, the same schedule, the same goals. I mean, it never works, and it's always been the thing that has bothered me but intrigued me about this space that we're in, the health and wellness, which are how habits play into it and how goals and importance and readiness for change all plays into all of this. And we've seen these one size fits all programs that will take someone in a silo or 100 people in a silo who have all the same exact direct line and go through it and say this program works. But I'm saying, who's starting the program? And if you gave that program to 1,000 or 10,000 people, are they all going to respond in the same way? And so that's always been the complexity of, we want results. We want things that are going to show that if you do follow this path and this process, it's going to work. Yet to balance that and blend that with the personalization of getting people to find those things that work amongst very diverse populations.
Yeah. I think of it as breaking it down in a simple analogy that we all should know. You have your own personal tastes and desires. You may like vanilla or chocolate ice cream. You may like no tomatoes on your sandwich, like some people I know. Or you like tomatoes on your sandwich. Or you like, but ultimately, like, look at your kids, look at your family. When you go and order food, do you ever all order the same thing? Like, you have your own personal preferences, your own personal desires. And a wise man once said, my actions today are much different than my actions maybe in spring or fall or winter of next year. Like, you change. So ultimately expecting like that single solution for all people is foolish. Don't do it. Don't do it
Agreed.
to yourself.
No, I think of even parenting or marriage as a parallel here,
Of
right?
course.
Where there are fundamentals that I think we would probably all agree to that would lead to, being a good parent or being a good husband or wife. However, how we go about, abiding by those fundamentals is probably going to be very different. I have 4 kids. They're all very different. They're parented, I would say, the same way, yet I have different relationships with each of them, knowing their personalities and knowing what they're involved in and what they like and what they dislike. So
Yeah.
it's kind
Well,
of an interesting parallel.
I'll speak for the millennial and Gen Z. I'm on the older
Mm,
side of the millennial. Parenting and kids, it's the next stage. So, but that's what
yeah,
happens. It's
you are
pretty,
you you're a Gen Zer minus a day is what I like to
what's
call
a
you.
pager again? Can you remind me what that pager thing is you were talking about? What's a payphone? How did you guys used to
was
drive
what,
around with that big
well,
map that you'd flip open and you're like G5 and you were able to get there. It just worked for you. Now I can't drive
it,
anywhere. I was driving back home from a meeting out of state and taking the turnpike or 95 back to New Jersey. And like the GPS just told me to go off it. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to just drive like a blind squirrel, just following this thing. I'm like, why did I go 30 minutes out of my way? Because the GPS just told me to get off 95. I'm like, what an idiot I am. But you're so accustomed to this tool telling you what you should be doing that you sometimes make, ridiculous decisions. I need my old map again.
I'd say if you had a pager and your first cell phone was a Motorola StarTAC, you might not be a millennial. That's just what I'm going to
I'm
say.
nostalgic. I'm nostalgic is what it is. Very nostalgic.
Is it
All
StarTAC? What is it?
right.
What's the name?
Exactly.
Was that
I
your
don't
first
remember.
phone?
I think it sounds right. Let me
I
check my
think it
starter
was
jacket and I'll tell you if it's still in there. All right.
Star.
Myth time. Step
Yes.
challenges always boost engagement. Tell me about how much you love step challenges. What are you gonna do? The 10,000 steps today, Tim? Tell me about that boosting engagement.
Step challenges always boost engagement
Yeah.
is a myth. And the reason why it's a myth is because different people are going to prefer different ways to stay fit, and it might not be just walking, it might not just be tracking. And it's interesting, not everybody even wants to track their steps. And so I'd say if that was tweaked to step challenges can be engaging for a good percentage of a diverse population, absolutely. But to assume it's going to be engaging for everybody um, should not be a defeating thought. It should just be a thought that says, that's why you need to just throw a lot out at employee populations and say some will respond to mindfulness, some will respond to steps, some will respond to let's have a challenge to go to the gym 2 to 3 times this week,
Yeah.
and for the next 48 weeks. So it just goes back to that personalization that needs to be there.
Yeah, and also step challenges can be engaging, but how do you define engagement? Like, can you get 2 weeks of a pop? Yes. You're not going to do a
Yeah.
step challenge for 365 days out of the year. That just is foolish. It's unsustainable. So if you're flipping things around, if you're creating some new content, some new experiences that reflect what's happening in the workforce and also reflects what your people care about, you can create meaningful challenges that will create long-term engagement. But just expecting that, again, that one size fits all, that's just going to drop in there. You're going to say, I'm doing this one challenge and that's going to create health and wellness for my organization is very narrow-minded. You're not going to get the long-term sustainability with that.
For sure. Have a backup plan. What happens when
Yeah.
people fall off the step challenge? Of
Right.
course.
And this is another big one we get asked all the time. Wellness isn't measurable. So what do we think about that one?
I think wellness is absolutely measurable. I mean, we've arguably built a business off of continuing to measure how we define engagement. And we talked about earlier, you got to start with how do you define engagement, and it
Yeah.
doesn't just mean
What are you tracking?
participation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I think different people would define being well or wellness differently, but figure out what that definition is and work with your clients and your partners on um, how you're meeting those goals to whatever it was defined.
Yeah. And I think it's like wellness, and you and I talk about this as well. It's more like an art than math. There is a
Mhm.
calculus to this, that there is a calculation that you could do. It's like X input plus Y team equals maybe Z output. But ultimately, what matters for your organization? Are you looking at an ROI, return on investment, or are you looking at a VOI, value on investment? And what matters to your organization? Yes, you can track how engaged your employees are. Yes, you can track how much weight they lose. Yes, you can track how many sick days they've been out. Like those are all simple, easy factors. The big misnomer in wellness, and Tim and I have been doing this for well over a decade now. It's like you're going to go back and quote the Rand study that's the 3-to-1 ROI, and like they had all this gray math in there. Like, yeah, that's hard, and that's the old way of thinking about traditional wellness. but look at all of the line items you currently have in your budget to support your organization. And are you getting an ROI in there? Are you really tracking those metrics? Probably not as much, as the biggest expense any organization typically has is their team. And it's by far the most important part of their organization as well is their people. So you may not get a clear, I saved X number of dollars in my health plan, but who cares? Your team is more engaged, you're feeling more connected to the workforce, and ultimately you're saving your team dollars, your people money, because they're not going to spend their money elsewhere. Like they're not searching for a GLP-1 online. They're not trying to find the next great thing, a weight loss, and they're suffering in silence and they're ashamed to get asked for help. It's like you can have a lot of good resources presented to your team and help them live happier, healthier lives. And ultimately that will create the culture you're probably looking for.
Yeah, it's unfortunate though that wellness has become this catch-all for anything that is involved in a positive impact on either your health or your mindfulness. And I get it, where it's jumbled and we're all trying to figure out exactly how to define it, number one, and number two, how to track it. But ultimately, if you're a small business employer, ask your employees, how can we support you in where you want to go within your life? And it's interesting too, because in a good way, the reason it's difficult to define is also because it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now, if I get a really good workout in the morning, I'm not saying I always do this, but I'm less likely to eat poorly that day because it's connected in my nutrition. I might not be on a specific nutrition program, but
100%.
just that workout's connected to that, which then makes me hopefully sleep better. And so it's all interconnected, difficult to define, but in a very good way, it all works together.
Yeah, I did a hike. Nothing like doing a hike in 100-degree weather, by the way. That was yesterday for me. So I went out on a hike with a few others here in New Jersey. And so we go do this hike, and it was longer than I expected, but I had the map. I knew we were fine. We were safe. It wasn't too bad. But so we leave, we're like, all right, like, let's go. And they want to go get some food. I'm like, let's go get some food. We get there, and the debate was, what are you going to get? I'm like, I'm obviously getting a salad. I feel amazing. And the debate was like, well, do you go salad or do you go like the heavy
Yeah.
pasta and like the dense
Yeah.
this and the big beer? I'm like, I just feel good now. And it's easier for me to make a decision because I feel good versus sitting, which I'm doing right now, sitting on my chair for a long period of time. I don't feel healthy. It's like, all the byproduct of that, of me sitting there and being so lethargic, it's like it's easier to reach for X versus Y. And I don't feel like having a salad. It doesn't make me excited. I'm not like inspired versus like I just had something great. I'm invigorated. It's just easy to set yourself up for success. I mean, think about the behavior change process that you and I talk about all the time. It's if you put your shoes by your bed, all you have to do is just tie your shoes today. All you have to do is put your shoes on. All you have to do is just drive to the gym. Don't even go in. All you have to do is go in for 5 minutes. It's like setting up all these behaviors. So ultimately over time, that person's like, I could do it. I feel better. I'm moving in the right direction. Ultimately, I'm going to get to the results I'm looking for.
Love it. And, I think we've always done a pretty good job. It's been very important for us to be real.
Mm-hmm.
So I also like I can call myself out too. Sometimes it goes the opposite where if I get a really good workout in the day, I'm like, oh, I've earned it. Let me go
Hoagies,
eat
Taylor
whatever I
ham.
want.
Let's go. Pork roll.
Exactly. Let me indulge. And
Yeah.
so I think there just has to be in all of us just a
Moderation.
realness to all of this
Yeah.
that says, let's instead of seeking perfection, let's start with seeking more wins than losses.
Mhm.
I've had, really like I think of my year this year, I've made really strong results of with my health and my wellness, but I've also had those seasons of, as you know, I don't mind Arby's. You've seen the credit card statements
He
on
loves
my
his
business
Arby's,
trips.
guys.
They're not all salads. So I mean, we have to find that balance, and the more we can do that for ourselves, the more we can do that
Yeah.
for our employees, our clients, and those who are around us.
Yeah. But look at, I think of like, again, analogies, but like look at Cooperstown. Like what's the greatest batting average ever? It's not 1,000%,
For
guys. Like you're not going to hit all those shots. You're not going to be successful all the time. Like greatest quarterback, the greatest athletes all around. Even the greatest athletes, again, like we always talk about, the greatest athletes all have coaches. There's someone else there to guide them. They're not going to get it 100% of the time, and the expectation is that you're going to have that unsustained result is setting yourself up for failure. And then when you fail, you're going to feel like you're failure, and you're not going to feel like you can sustain doing anything, which is as Tim said, just getting those small victories, small successes, and moving that person forward. Which is also, again, going back down to like, we're talking about wellness myths and challenges associated with this and the programs that maybe organizations are going to do. If you're setting up this big, which Tim and I did, a big flash, like we're going to do this big blow up party, we're going to have all this great success, and then what happens afterwards? Well, actually, the real work happens afterwards. Like when you launch a program, so the sustainability, the long-term engagement, the consistency, and being able to flex with the needs of the organization, ultimately the needs of your team, and the needs of your team in June versus the needs of your team in December are different.
Great.
All right, let's go mid-time, potentially. Maybe not. Maybe you're going to call this fact. Participation equals success. We love our participation trophies, Tim.
I would say participation doesn't equal success, but participation plays a huge role in success, and showing up is a big part of it. And now if you don't have the follow through, okay. But I do think participation is a part of success. If I would say equal success, absolutely not. I can show up to the gym and just sit in the lobby or go to the water fountain. I've technically participated. I've shown up. What am I doing there? And so I would say it's a part of
I think it's like
success.
participation equals moving in the right direction. Like you have to participate. You have to be, it's like the readiness for change scale. Like where are they? If you just get them moving, and then hopefully that leads to the right behaviors, and it leads to them making the bigger, more difficult decision to do the next activity. But certainly, like if the expectation is, if you're defining, again, how are you measuring success for your organization, just by people opting in. And I just read an article literally today talking about engagement on social media, and they've changed some of the social media platforms out there have changed how they define engagement, and it's like 0.01 seconds of a view equates to that's a view. So if we only get 30 views in this video, we have some big problems because of how they're valuing the time someone spends on your content to determine that it is a success or not success. That's crazy. But then again, that's them setting metrics that make the creators feel better and people feel good about it. And I know I do. It's like if you see people looking at your stuff, you feel better about it. But ultimately, are you really moving the needle? Are you transforming someone's life with your content, or their health or their wellness? Probably not. So, but you need that first step. They have to take the first click. Otherwise, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, I would say participation does not always equal success, but if you've never participated before, that is a success if you participated. And I have my son was in baseball camp this week, and I could have defined success as how many hits he got, or tracking his errors, which I don't know what father would do that to a young child, but I didn't.
The one that
But I
spanks
told
him
him, I
when
said,
he
just
gets back home.
I said, just show up every day and don't quit. That and so for him, participation was success. So I think we're belaboring the point, but
Should I lean into the spanking thing, Tim, or is that could be too controversial? That's too hot of a take right now.
I say let's go. I mean, can you imagine?
It's amazing.
Oh,
I don't think
boy.
we'll edit this out. So if you made it this far, you get that little insight into us.
You get that nugget.
You get the nugget.
That little nugget.
It's what is it? What is it called when they do it in the movies? Not breadcrumb, right? Is it breadcrumb? What is it they call it when they hide? Like no, like what is it called? It's something like where it's like the breadcrumb, the like where they Easter egg. That's what it is. They leave you an Easter egg, like the Marvel movies. They left you an Easter egg, which is like some clue as to something else. So I don't know if we're going to go multi-universe
on movies when they have,
or even in the movies, they'll leave you like a little nugget of like this. So we're going multiverse right now. This is where we're going with.
Okay.
All right.
So for us, it was spanking. That was our Easter egg.
Yeah. Or Taylor ham.
All right.
Or a pork roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you are in Jersey, what exit you are. All right. Let's tackle next myth, and I'll go on this one first. So coaching doesn't scale. Health coaching doesn't scale. So we've been doing this for a decade now, and I would say if you're doing it the old way, it doesn't scale. So the old way is just throwing a bunch of bodies and expecting those bodies to, help support millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people. It just doesn't scale because people only have so much time, and your coaches, and we have some that are very close to us, your coaches eventually burnt out. They get burnt out because they're shouldering so much responsibility, engaging with employees, engaging with people, and shouldering a lot of that effort to help that person unlock where they are and get them moving forward. So I think if you take a more modern, contemporary approach to coaching, which is allowing some of the digital tools to support and engage participants in session and out of session, you can have a highly scalable health coaching program that drives long-term results and long-term benefit.
I think I know a company that can do that too. I don't
Do you
know
want to put do we flash on the
if
screen like buy now, or that doesn't work anymore?
shameless plug.
Shameless plug, exactly. We have
uh,
to go ahead with
yeah,
that.
great. Yeah, I think that also if we think of the goal of coaching, it's for someone not to have to be within these strict confines of coaching forever, right? The goal is them to start to learn the fundamentals on their own and be able to do a lot of these things on their own. And of course, goals may change, and we all fall off, and we're going to have to come back. But coaching is only not scalable if it's completely ineffective. If it's effective,
Mhm.
you're going to start to, like you said, you're going to have different modes of coaching, different ways to do it, and I go back to when we used to do like the first call with a coach. Like your first interaction with us was a 30-minute kind of uncomfortable call with a coach. And we were like, why aren't we getting the participation we
Mhm.
wanted or we had thought we were going to get? And we switched a lot of that to digital because it was just such a nice entry point where the person could like enter into the coaching,
Yeah, comfortable for them.
domain, if you will.
Mhm.
Nice, comfortable, get started, very easy. And we just saw the engagement immediately rise because we were able to embrace this blend of live and virtual coaching.
Cool. So closing thoughts, anything else? It doesn't have to be related to this, but anything else on your mind you want to close with?
Was that 10? That was 10 myths?
It was actually 9. I removed one as I was reading through them. So I don't know if I said 10 to get started with, but if we want to go 10, I'll give you the 10th one. You want 10? Here's the 10th one. So we already offer mental health through our EAP. That's the 10th.
I see why you ditched
You
that
wish
one.
I
That's
said these
a
are 9 minutes that we're going to discuss, but let's talk about that now. We brought it up, and
yep.
we'd be cowards if we were unwilling to have
Yep.
this thoughtful discussion around. We offer, it could be this, we offer blank benefit through Y vendor. I think that's a better way to think about it. That's the myth. So we already offer that. Like, is that a myth or is that a fact? Like, if we're trying to advocate for someone to use our product, like you and I should speak. What do we think about this? It's like many of our clients have tools already, and that's common. And we typically say those tools aren't doing enough. And I usually would go with saying, look at your participation, look at your engagement, look at your long-term outcomes. You need to have something else because the one-size approach doesn't fit all people. So inevitably, if you have other avenues of opportunity for people to engage, then the likelihood is that you can create a more robust program, which I think that everyone would say, well, I kind of agree with that. If we go to, at least here in New Jersey, there's tons of diners. You go to a diner, I could get pasta, Tim could get pancakes, someone else can get ice cream, someone can get Chinese food. Like you have all these options out there because it just gives you that, because you go there with the intention to have a lot of the optionality being very high. And I think oftentimes people say they're already getting that, it's already included in my cost, but my employees aren't using it or they're not engaged. It's like, well, God, that's just crazy. You're already paying for a service that you think you're getting a lot of value from, or maybe you don't think you're getting value from, but then you're unwilling to consider other alternatives to help support that. And I think even for clients that bring us on, we're not the only silver bullet out there. There's other things that we know we play nicely in the sandbox with. And we also know that they can be an extender of our care because we don't touch those items in the way that another vendor or partner would be. So I think you just really got to explore your workforce and your organization.
Yeah, EAPs historically offer wonderful resources, but just a lot of the percentage of employees don't raise their hand and say, I need these resources. And I think there's some parallels there to what we do. Even with health coaching, we are
Yeah, it's hard.
tackling some uncomfortable topics, or it's never easy to say I'm not doing this, or I want to do it and I can't do it, or I need help doing it. And so ultimately it's about the level of participation and tracking those results, but also don't just as an employer say, oh, we offer it like a check the box. Like, is this really something that's important to you? And I think why employees don't use it, it's actually pretty simple, I think, to get to. We do a lot of testing on our product. And I'll use this as an example. The other day I was going in and I was gonna take a challenge as like a persona, and it was asking me the questions, but I'm on as my own personal account. And I didn't want to answer like certain things because I'm like, well, what if the help desk gets this? And they're like, is Tim a smoker or is Tim this? Or like, I'm like, all these things are weighing, like, who's watching this? And so now take that to the nth degree. If it's somebody who really needs to raise their hand for addiction or some, or anything that could
Anything associated with
be a
stigma. Yeah.
wonderful resource, yeah, they don't understand that they like what's going on behind the scenes. And think of, if we created a course that was, hey, you work remote, but you're lazy. How many of our employees are going to take that course? So they're going to be like, Tim and Clark are watching this.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of that thought transcends to the EAP or even the health coaching,
Yeah.
which is it's got to be private. It's got to be it's got to be this resource where people know that this is not going to in some way impact how they're either their boss or the leaders of the company are going to view them.
Yeah. Well, if you think of that, like organizations that have EAPs, we already know it's dismal participation. I mean, for those that use it, they get a lot of value. So I'm not poo-pooing it. It's high value, high impact for those employees. But if you look in that collective group of whatever, a pie being 100% filled, such a small percentage of people use them. But within that organization, I am sure I'd be willing to make any wager that there's a subset of that population, of those employees, that are also downloading Headspace, downloading Calm, going to a mindfulness or a yoga or doing videos to kind of relax themselves. They're using that, and it may not be as extreme to needing the EAP, but I agree with you. It's like the confidentiality is important. Sometimes it's just like a lack of education and awareness and understanding as to what resources are available. That's also meeting people where they are. People think of EAP as like, whoa, like I'm going to go to do this. It's so extreme versus like, it's just someone that can help me in times that I need them. So there's also an opportunity to better educate people on the resources they have, even for small organizations. I mean, we don't have thousands of employees here, and we will typically look and see, we think everyone's dialed in. We think everyone understands the value and the benefits we provide to them. But when you see participation, you're like, well, this isn't not what we expected. So a few people are using these services, but more people could probably benefit from those services as well.
Great.
And now we're at officially 10. So we did it. You pushed me through. This is called having an accountability partner, kind of what health coaches do. So Tim just coached me through a difficult moment when I made on the fly. I looked at the questions and I said, I just don't think this 10th one was going to drive the conversation we wanted. And Tim felt that there was something off, and he called me out on it. So we did it. We succeeded. We persevered through this, and I feel like a better man. So thank you for that. Thank you for making me a better man today.
It wasn't even coaching. That was friendship. As well?
Yeah.
I don't know. You promised me 10 and you gave me 9. I just feel like, you should.
I was surprised you could get up to double digits on counting. I know on Arby's hamburgers, you'd be good for up to 10, but I don't know on the other stuff.
Yeah. You lost me at pork roll.
That should be the closing comments. Pork roll, Taylor ham. What do you have, guys? Are you going to go pork roll, Taylor ham, hoagie, sub, spank kids, don't spank kids? Like, those are the 3 hot takes I want to know from you. So in the comments, let us know what you're feeling. And then we're happy to help you and help you live the best life you possibly can.